One of the reasons why I love you is you have been a expert on the brain and a psychiatrist for 40 years, and you do not focus on what's wrong with us. You literally teach us how to bring out like more awesomeness through brain health. You call it elite brain training. What is that?
Well, a long time ago, I realized I hated the term mental illness. It shames people, it's stigmatizing, and it's wrong. There are brain health issues. And if I can teach you to get your brain healthy, well, your mind is better. People often don't understand that. Your brain, physical functioning of your brain creates your mind. And so if you want to be elite, you're already elite. But the people I work with, everybody wants to be better. Nobody wants to be told they're mental. And so the mission I have on the planet is to end the whole concept of mental illness and create this revolution in brain health, which is why I'm so grateful to hang out with you today.
Oh, I wasn't planning on asking you this, but I just was struck by the fact that you distinguished between the brain and the mind. What's the difference between your brain and your mind?
Well, your brain, the physical functioning of your brain creates your mind. And people get this mixed up all the time, but you just have to think of someone who has Alzheimer's disease. And if you saw the scans of people with Alzheimer's disease, you see that they're wildly damaged. And then that person is no longer fully that person because their brain has been damaged. Or just take COVID.
Mm-hmm.
People who get COVID in the next 4 months have a 25% chance of having a new onset psychiatric illness because COVID causes inflammation in the brain. And then I was on the Kardashian show recently, and Kendall came to see me, and she's like, after I got COVID, I'm so anxious. But if you look at the physical functioning of her brain, her emotional centers are on fire. And so people really need to know, if you want a healthy mind, the first thing to have is a healthy brain.
And when you say a healthy brain, so that makes sense to me, Dr. N, first of all, especially the Alzheimer's example. It makes sense to me that when the physical structure and functioning of your brain is impacted, of course it has an impact on the state of your mind. And so are you saying that absolutely anybody can improve the physical health of their brain, and that will have an impact on your happiness, your performance, and your mental health?
Everything. And it happens quickly. So for example, if you get better sleep tonight, your
Yep.
mind can be better tomorrow. If you get drunk tonight, your mind's going to be worse tomorrow. And because those both have a direct impact on the physical functioning of your brain.
Wow. It's interesting because you're right. There is so much information and so many conversations out there about mental health, but you have this revolutionary approach of teaching all of us how to take better care of our brain and how to improve our brain itself and how that has a direct impact. So I want to start at the very beginning because, you've been doing this for 40 years. You are, in my opinion, the world's leading expert on the brain. And can you give us just a 101 on the brain and what you want anybody and everybody to know about the brain? And I want you to speak directly, Dr. Amen, to somebody who may be listening who's never thought about this topic before.
So your brain is involved in everything you do, how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you get along with other people. It's the organ of intelligence, character, and every single decision you make. And when your brain works right, you work right. And when your brain is troubled for whatever reason, you're sadder, sicker, poorer, because your decisions aren't as good. And the very first step in getting a healthy brain is developing a concept I call brain envy. I always say Freud was wrong. Penis envy is not the cause of anybody's problem. I haven't seen it once in 40 years. It's brain envy is what you want. You want to love the 3 pounds of fat between your ears. You know, today I'm in Miami, but I usually live in Newport Beach, where we have more plastic surgeons than almost anywhere in the world, because people care more about their faces, their breasts, their bellies, and their butts than they do their brain. And that's insane, because it's your brain that makes you attractive. It's your brain that makes you happy. It's your brain that keeps you purposeful, or it's your brain that is the organ of rage. And so getting your brain right is critical. And it's these 3 steps: brain envy, got to care, avoid anything that hurts it, know the list. And quite frankly, most second graders would get a 90% if you gave them 100 things that hurt their brain. And then the third thing is regularly do things that help it. And I worked with BJ Fogg for 6 months. He runs a persuasive tech lab at Stanford on how people change. And we develop tiny habits. You know, what's the smallest thing you can do today that will make the biggest difference? And the mother tiny habit is, whenever you go to do something today, ask yourself, takes 3 seconds. Ask yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? And if you can answer that with information and love of yourself, love of your family, love of your mission, you're going to just start making better decisions, because you care about the organ that makes you you.
Wow. All right, let me unpack this. So, number one, brain envy is this idea of actually caring about the health of your brain. And so, do you recommend that you have somebody in mind that you envy? Like, clearly, I envy you because you take incredible care of your brain. But is it just this concept that you just actually have to wake up and realize that what's in between your ears is the most important aspect of your health and wellness, period? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And number two, you then said that there are these micro habits that you have developed, one of which is asking yourself literally throughout the day, is this good or bad for my brain? So let me just role play that one real quick. Because you said that, like 90% of second graders can answer the question correctly almost all of the time, but we adults get it terribly wrong. So let's just say it's breakfast time. So how do you use this to start to make better choices that help your brain? Like, do you literally go, okay, am I having a cup of coffee or a glass of water? Am I eating like a big piece of toast with tons of butter and all this crap on it? Am I taking my supplements? Like, how does this play out in somebody's day-to-day life, Dr. Amen?
So I used to play a game with my daughter when she was little. Her name is Chloe, and we called it Chloe's game. And I would say blueberries, and she would say 2 thumbs up, God's candy. And then I would say Frosted Flakes. She'd go, way too much sugar. Or avocados, 2 thumbs up, God's butter. Or hitting a soccer ball with your head. And she would just roll her eyes like, brain is soft, skull is hard. That would be so stupid. and so if you think of the standard American diet, sad, almost everything's bad for your brain. From the toast in the morning, to the sugar cereals, to the donuts, to the pastries, to the coffee with sugar and milk in it. no, those things are not great for the health of your brain. But if you did intermittent fasting and you sort of skip breakfast, well, that's good for your brain
Why is intermittent fasting good for the brain?
because it helps your brain clean up the trash that builds up from the day before. There's a term called autophagy, which is cells start to eat the extra trash that built up the day before. And so if you don't sleep, you don't have enough time for the cleaning crew to come and sort of clean up your brain. Intermittent fasting gives you a little bit more time to do that. So breakfast is marketing, and it's actually not essential. Now, for people who might have hypoglycemia or low blood sugar, then breakfast really is important. And kids who have ADD, for example, if they have protein in the morning, their medication lasts longer throughout the day. And when you and I were growing up, things like sausage and eggs were common for breakfast, where now, because everybody's on the run, it's sugar-laden cereals, juice. That was the only thing the second graders got wrong when I tested them. So I gave them a list of 20 things, and I'm like, good for your brain or bad for it. And the only thing they got wrong was orange juice, which they put in the good category, but it's clearly in the bad category, because when is it rational to have the sugar from 4 oranges? It's not rational.
That's true. It makes a lot of sense. What are 3 micro habits that have the biggest impact on the health of your brain, other than asking yourself, is this good or bad for my brain?
So I start every day with today is going to be a great day. Because once you get the physical functioning of your brain healthy, you then have to program it. And so I knew I was going to talk to you. It's the first thing that came up in my mind. So I start every day. And if you have children, it's really good to do this at breakfast, which is if you have breakfast. So why is today going to be a great day for you? Directing your mind, which for many people, because of evolution, they wake up in a negative state. It puts your brain in a positive state. And then my favorite of all the habits I do is when I go to bed at night, I say a prayer, and then I go, what went well today? And I go on a treasure hunt. And I actually start from the very moment I woke up, looking for what was right about the day. And I've done this now 7 or 8 years. And even the night my dad died, about 2.5 years ago, and it was an awful, awful day. I did it because it was my habit, right? The brain is lazy. It does what you nudge it to do. And so it really helped me, even in a really hard time. But it's almost my favorite time of the day because, like you, I'm busy and great things will happen and I'll just not really focus on it. But it's that treasure hunt that is just so good. And then I take my supplements every day because we live in a nutrient deficient society. And I always want to give my brain the nutrition it needs so it can serve me rather than derail me.
Is there one supplement that you believe everybody should take for better brain health?
Well, a couple, multiple vitamin, a really high quality multiple vitamin. I make one called Neurovite Plus. Brand new study showed people with memory problems who were headed to darkness when they took a high quality multiple vitamin. Within a matter of months, their memory was better. So,
what?
yes.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. So you're saying that a high quality multivitamin can not only improve your memory, but if you're sliding on a slippery slope toward memory loss, research shows that it can actually bring memory back?
Yes, brand new research just came out. They're actually comparing it to placebo and cocoa extract, chocolate. And they were hoping the chocolate would do it. It wasn't the chocolate, it was the multiple vitamin. And why I developed Neurobite like I did, it has the same dosages of B6, B12, and folate that decrease the conversion of mild cognitive impairment to Alzheimer's disease. Now, I never make a disease claim with supplements, but if this level of B6, B12, and folate did that, I'm going to put those levels in our supplements.
Wow, I'm going to start popping it like candy is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that we link to that study and then we link to the supplements that you make as well, just so that people can check it out. That's incredible. So a multivitamin has a huge impact. I hear a lot about fish oil too.
And that would be number two. I did a study at Amen Clinics and we found 98% of people had suboptimal levels of omega-3 fatty acids unless they were supplementing, because we don't have the same level of fish consumption we had before. Plus, fish is tricky. Brand new study out of Florida International University, so not very far from where I am today. They looked at bonefish off the coast of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
On average, they had 7 pharmaceutical medications in their tissues. And I'm like, no way. And the most common were antidepressants. So as humans, excrete the medications they take into, waste plants, that gets out into the ocean. And then the fish we eat are impacted by them in a negative way.
Whoa.
So one reason I like high quality fish oil, because it's purified, especially ours, but also omega-3 fatty acids have been found to be good for your heart, good for your brain, good for your hair, good for your skin, good for your eyes.
Why is it good for the brain?
25% of the nerve cell membranes in your brain are made up of omega-3 fatty acids. So if you're deficient, your brain is not going to work as fast and efficiently as it could. And low levels have been associated with all sorts of bad things, from depression to dementia to ADHD.
I know you have a specific breathing pattern that is associated with a calmer mind. Can you teach it to us?
I love it so much. It's the 15-second breath. So if you're having a panic attack, this is going to fix it in 2 minutes or less. And what researchers discovered is you take twice as long to breathe out as you breathe in. It produces an automatic relaxation response in your body. So the pattern is this, and it's 4 seconds in.
Okay.
Hold it for 1.5 seconds. 8 seconds out. Hold it for 1.5 seconds.
Will you walk us through it?
So 4 seconds in. Hold it. 8 seconds out. Hold it out. And then repeat. And I have an app called Happy Brain, HAPI Brain,
Mm-hmm.
and actually has a pacer that does that for you. And all you have to do is, when you see the circle get bigger, breathe in. When you see it get smaller, breathe out. And it's so simple. And try to breathe more diaphragmatically or more with your belly. So let the energy of breathing go lower in your body. And if you just practice this on a regular basis, cortisol will go down. And you're just going to get flooded with a feeling of calmness and relaxation. Now you got to practice. You have to create a pathway in your brain of relaxation.
Why
And
does this 15-second breath work?
because it stimulates, encourages your brain to go into a parasympathetic state. So there's a difference between stress, what scientists call sympathetic state, has nothing to do with sympathy. It's a bad word. But a sympathetic state is where I was on the beach at Corona del Mar walking my dog, and I saw two pit bulls running toward me.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, right? So my heart went fast. I mean, it was panic, and ended up turning out okay. But
Well, what happened? Now I'm on the edge of my seat. Did you pick up your dog? Did they just jump
oh
up
no,
and
he's a big
greet you?
white shepherd,
Oh,
and I got bit. He ended up in the ocean. Yeah, it was sort of a disaster. I still get triggered sometimes, which we should talk about a little bit, because in my elite brain training program,
yeah.
it is critical to eliminate trauma, or at least to learn how to dissipate trauma. Because I love walking on that beach so much. So I actually did a session of EMDR. I don't know if you and I talked about EMDR.
Yep.
It's specific psychological treatment for trauma. It's actually really cool. It is, I have my patients write down 10 of their worst traumas. And then through a specific protocol, I'll have their eyes go back and forth while they bring it up, and it tends to help dissipate it. It's very powerful. Or when I go on that beach now, I'll often find myself doing this.
And what you're doing is rubbing your hands back and forth.
Right. And it's bilateral hemisphere stimulation in my brain, right? I feel it on one side, then the other side. And that just takes the anxiety that I might associate to that beach and washes it away, which can be so helpful. So many people, they drink to manage their anxiety from past trauma. They're using marijuana, now more magic mushrooms. And I'm like, no. There are way better ways to do that are not potentially toxic for your brain.
Wow. Well, we're going to have to come back and do a whole nother episode on that for sure. How do you calm a very busy brain?
So the first simple thing to do is the diaphragmatic breathing, the breathing pattern that we just talked about. The second thing that we haven't talked about, but so important, is to direct your thoughts. I was 28 years old before I learned I didn't have to believe every stupid thing I thought. And I'm in class when I was a psychiatric resident at the Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and I heard my professor say that, and I'm like, no way. Because my mind would fairly torture me. I'm one of 7 children. I was pretty much irrelevant. I have 5 sisters. There's a lot of chaos in my family. And my mind would torture me. And if you start writing down your negative thoughts and just ask yourself whether or not they're true. And there's a whole process I teach my patients. It's just so helpful that I need to be the director of my mind rather than my ancestors directed, or the voices of my parents directed, or the news, or the gossip at work. I need to be the director. And since I want to be happy, connected, purposeful, I often go, well, does this thought fit me being happy, connected, and purposeful? And Mel, just because you have a thought has nothing to do with whether or not it's true or whether or not it's helpful. Or, everybody has crazy thoughts. Jerry Seinfeld once said the brain is a sneaky organ. All of us have weird, crazy, stupid, sexual, violent thoughts that nobody should ever hear. And just because you have a thought, it doesn't say one thing about you. It's just sort of, like the weather. It's not the thoughts you have that make you suffer. It's the thoughts you attach to that make you suffer. And when you really understand this, so we talked about the physical functioning of your brain. Well, now we're talking about programming.
Yeah, let's stop real quick because I want to ask you a question. Because I want you to talk to the person that has never considered that they could direct their thoughts, or that the things that they think aren't necessarily true. If there's a person hearing this, just like you were 28 years old, sitting in a class when it first entered your mind, other than taking out a notebook and just start to write down the things that are popping in your mind, is there some other way to help someone kick the door open? Because this is a revolutionary and life-changing concept when somebody first entertains the notion, Dr. Amen, that you can direct what you're thinking about and you can dismiss some of the crap that you torture yourself with as untrue. How do you begin this mental training and reprogramming?
So I don't have any tattoos, but if I got one of the first tattoos I would get is it true? It's just start carrying that question around in your head. And so when you get a thought, my wife never listens to me. I've had that thought. If you have that question, then you don't automatically have to attach to it. You can talk back to it. I don't know if you were good at talking back to your parents when you were a teenager, but I was excellent. And no one had ever taught me to talk back to myself. And so we don't have to believe the nonsense that's going on in our head. Just sort of begin to think about it like the weather and then go, does this thought serve me? Does it help me? Is it even true? And it's so often the lies we tell ourselves that keep us overweight, depressed, and feeble-minded. And it's a revolution, I think, all second graders. I actually have a children's book called Captain Snout and the Superpower Questions, where I teach kids not to believe every stupid thing they think. I call them ants, automatic negative thoughts. So you need a little anteater patrolling the streets of your mind.
ADHD is not a disease.
No, they're just...
Let's talk about depression, though, because that is technically like a disease, right?
Well, anxiety is a disease, and ADD is considered a disease. I mean,
why?
They're in the disease classification manual. I don't agree. I think here. Let me just back up a little bit. We have like 155,000 diseases in our manual, doctor manual, that we can pick from when we want to diagnose somebody, and most of them are just descriptions of the symptoms that people have, but tell you nothing about the cause.
So is the root cause inflammation? Is that the root cause of all of this?
Many things is inflammation.
What is the root?
Everything.
What are the options when it comes to root cause for you as a functional medical doctor?
Yeah. So basically, at the beginning, we talked about taking out the bad stuff, putting in the good stuff.
Yeah.
And the body's not that complicated. I mean, it's complex. It's very dynamic, but basically, it needs certain things to thrive, and certain things make it not thrive. Right. So what are the things that we need to think about getting rid of that the body doesn't like?
Okay.
Bad food.
Yep.
And we've sort of defined that's processed food, sugar, most of the stuff that people are eating. 60% of our diet is ultra processed food, which is deadly. It's stress, and it can be physical or psychological stress. And a lot of, stress is really defined as the perception of a real or imagined threat to your body or your ego. So it could be a tiger chasing you, or you could think your spouse is cheating on you, but it's not true.
Or you
right?
could think that your boss is mad at you.
Yeah, like Woody Allen with a gun to his head has one reaction. James Bond has another action, right?
That's an interesting
Same
example.
same gun, different response. So the
Yes.
perception is our mindset, our beliefs, our attitudes. A lot of things you talk about, Mel, are really what drives our stress response.
How does a negative thought cause a physiological problem in your body? A stress response.
I'm going to answer that. Can I finish the
No, you can't. No, I'm
because
just
you have ADD. Because I'm just going to continue with the thing that I wanted to say.
I
and then I'll
clearly
come
need
back
to eat
the-
more vegetables, goddammit.
I'll come back to that. So the other few things that are the things that cause our body to be out of balance, besides bad food and stress, are toxins. So we are living in a sea of environmental toxins, from heavy metals to pesticides.
Okay.
Our gut and microbiome is a huge factor. So an unhealthy gut and bad bugs, and it can be infections or can mostly come from the gut. And last is things that irritate our immune system, like allergens or sensitivities.
Okay.
Those 5 things.
So say
are
them
the
again. Bad foods.
Bad food, stress, toxins, bad bugs, and
Sensitivity.
allergens. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And those interact with our biology with 7 basic systems that we have that keep us healthy. And if we have those things, they create imbalance. So we have to get rid of those things, take out the bad stuff. So what are the good stuff? What are the ingredients for health? How does our bodies thrive? We know how to take care of our car. We change the oil. We fill up the air in our tires. We, get the tune-up. We change the spark plugs, whatever. Like most of us have a clue. In our bodies, we have no clue. So what are the things our bodies need? We need the right nutrients and nutrition. And it's a little bit personalized, but I've written a lot about how to find a way of eating that's good for you and that you like. It's culturally relevant. It's affordable. Second is nutrients. We are often deficient in many nutrients, particularly omega-3s, vitamin D, B vitamins, iron, zinc. These are magnesium, common nutritional deficiencies that have broad impacts across the body, including our mood. Then we need the right balance of hormones. We need the right amount of light at the right time. So if you're having, blue light at night, you're not going to sleep. If you don't have, blue light in the morning, your brain can't reset for the day.
When you say blue light in the morning, are you talking about bright light outside?
Sunlight.
Okay.
Go outside.
I didn't
20
really
minutes.
realize that sunlight was blue light.
Yeah, well, it's got blue in the blue light spectrum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so at night we just are overstimulated with our computers and our screens, and this screws up. So we need the right kind of light. We need the right type of clean air. We need clean water. We need movement, like exercise. We need resetting, restoration, relaxation, resetting the vagus nerve, sympathetic nervous system needs to be calmed down, right? That's not a passive activity. So you have to actively relax, right? Whether it's breathing or yoga or meditation or whatever, prayer, or journaling, a million ways to do it. Then we need also sleep. And most of us are not getting enough sleep or good quality sleep. So 7-8 hours minimum for most people is essential. And there's a lot of talk we could talk about sleep. And then we need connection, community, love, meaning and purpose. These are all ingredients for health. In my book, I talk about how, for example, if we cured heart disease and cancer from the face of the planet, we'd extend our life by 5 to 7 years.
If we cured loneliness?
If we cured loneliness and develop connection and meaning and purpose, we extend our life by 7 years or more. So wait a minute. Basically, having meaning and purpose and connection in your life is more powerful than curing cancer and heart disease in terms of longevity. So we and I know from my travel to blue zones, that was a big part of the medicine they had, was community is medicine.
Right.
Connection is medicine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most-
And I'm sure you're seeing it as a epidemic of loneliness, especially coming out of the pandemic.
Totally. So those are the ingredients for health that we need to provide, and everybody needs different ones. For example, some people might need more vitamin D, some people might need more sleep, some people need different kind of exercise. So it's really personalized, but those are the basic ingredients. So
It's
that's
sort of personalized, right? Because like just talking to the broad audience that's listening, you've mentioned a number of supplements and it's the same ones over and over. So for anybody listening that's like, okay, I got it, I have to do something. We've already talked about diet and changing your diet, and even just noticing that if you were to remove the things we've talked about and add in this very simple, clean, healthy, vegetable forward and clean protein diet in 6 to 10 days, you're going to feel like a different person. Just try it.
Try it. And then you can decide what you want to do after that, right?
Yes.
I want to keep eating my donuts. Okay, fine. Then you're going to feel like crap. And if you want to feel like crap, it's your prerogative. Right?
Well, I'll tell you something. I am now on, it's like, I don't know, day 30 something of not drinking. It's life changing.
Yeah, totally.
It's totally life changing. And I cannot believe how much clearer I am. I cannot believe how much more present I am. I cannot believe that I don't really miss it.
Yep.
And I had committed to doing this for almost 3 months, and I don't know how I'll incorporate it back, if ever. Maybe here and there, but like it just was such a profound difference for me that I'm kind of dumbfounded I didn't do this earlier.
Yeah.
And so I think you can tell almost immediately if you're not currently taking a high quality multivitamin or other supplements, what are the non-negotiables where everybody should start?
You know, for probably less than $1 a day, you can get what you need, which is a multivitamin.
Yep.
And I would say a good one. It's cleanly produced. It doesn't have fillers, additives,
How do you
dyes.
tell if it's a good one?
I have curated ones that are high grade. In other
Okay.
words, the ones that are manufactured in good manufacturing practices that don't have fillers, chemicals, and additives, that are bioavailable forms of nutrients. And so if you stick with certain brands, you can kind of guarantee you're going to get that.
Okay.
Then I think a vitamin D for almost everybody, even in the summer. People are like, oh, I'm taking, vitamin D in the summer. I don't need it. You do. Most people, unless they're out there running around half naked between 10 and 2 every day all year long, you're going to be vitamin D deficient.
That's only you. I've seen you in your before and after photos that we're going to link. The dude is tan with the 6-pack. You're running around getting the vitamin D. He's embarrassed and laughing. We know it's true. Now, is there different forms of D,
Vitamin
like
D3,
D3?
Vitamin D3.
And do you have to take it with something else to be absorbed?
With fat. You need with fat. So with food, basically.
Okay.
So maybe between 1,000 to 5,000. The government guidelines say up to 4,000 is safe. So there's no downside to that. And then fish oil for most people, because 90+% of us are deficient in omega-3 fats because we don't eat wild food that much anymore.
What does the fat do?
These omega-3 fats are fats that we need in small amounts that are what our brains are made up of.
Oh.
They regulate inflammation. They are what our cell membranes are made of. They are basically the most critical fats that we consume, and most of us don't have enough of them. And they can treat depression and very many mental issues. Even ADD has been found to be helpful. Postpartum depression. I mean, so a lot of things that we just think, oh, well, what do we do with these things? But there are great studies that show that these can be effective. So I think that's a kind of basic non-negotiable.
Got it. So multivitamin, everybody, the D3
and fish oil.
And fish oil. What about magnesium? Because you've mentioned it a couple times.
That's my fourth one. But depending on your symptoms, and how do you know you need magnesium? Well,
I don't know. How do I know?
Listen up, everybody. It's pretty simple. If you have anything that's irritable or twitchy or spasmy, it's likely you're magnesium deficient. So if you're anxious, your emotions are twitchy. If you have palpitations, it's twitchy. If your colon's not working and it's in spasm, you have constipation. If you have muscle cramps, you have eye twitching. Any of those things are signs of low magnesium.
I'm just twitching as you describe those symptoms because I'm like, check. I'm going to use, I promised everybody a appointment, zero cost, with one of the world's most respected medical experts and leading voices in the functional medicine space. My toes cramp all the time.
Yeah.
Why?
Everybody's favorite radio station, you know what that is?
No.
WIFM.
What does that mean?
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me? Yes, exactly.
So your toes.
Yes, my toes.
Probably cramp because you have either electrolyte imbalances or magnesium.
Oh.
And so if, people often don't have enough electrolytes in their diet, particularly potassium. So you can get that from eating lots of vegetables, from vegetable broths, or take electrolyte solutions. But taking magnesium is a huge cure for muscle cramps, and it's particularly foot cramps.
So what surprising things cause your magnesium to go down?
So we should have a lot of magnesium because it's in all foods, nuts and seeds, and a lot of plant foods. But we do so much to make our bodies dump magnesium in our urine. We drink too much soda. We have too much caffeine, too much alcohol, and too much stress, all of which cause us to lose magnesium in our urine.
How does it make you lose magnesium if you drink a soda?
Well, it's got something called phosphoric acid in it, which is in the dark colored colas, and that causes you to leach magnesium out. And
wow.
Yeah.
And what about seltzer versus water?
Like bubbly.
Like, is it I'm really curious about whether or not drinking seltzer.
It's okay to drink bubbly water. I think you should mix it up. But if you only drink bubbly water, it's probably not totally great for you. But if you have water and sparkling water, if you like that, I love sparkling water. So not an issue.
All right. Well, thank you, doctor. If you can't afford to go to somebody in functional medicine to get this all tested, how do you figure out what's going on? You have in your new book, Young Forever, you have all of these self-assessments that you can do.
Yeah.
But do you have to have testing at some point, or is there a way for you to
get testing?
have an accessible way?
Yeah.
Because one of the things, I agree with you. I agree with you that our medical approach and the medical system is about treating illness versus keeping you healthy and whole. I agree that we treat symptoms, but we have a hard time getting to the root cause.
I agree.
So I just want to, because I know that what's going to happen with this conversation, Dr. Hyman, is that we are going to activate anyone listening to absolutely take the next 10 days of your life and see what happens when you reset your diet and you remove a few things. Absolutely add in those simple supplements that cost you less than $1 a day, and you are worth that investment in yourself, and see what happens. Absolutely take the steps to lower your stress and tap into your body's ability to reset, like even just the 5 deep breaths a day that activate and tone the vagus nerve. But if somebody's going, I want to learn more, what is the next right step?
That's a great question. And one of the challenges I've always had with medicine is it's kind of a secret guild, and doctors hold the reins. They can order the tests or they can't. They will give you the results or they won't. They'll help you interpret them or they won't. And so you're at the sort of whim and mercy of whoever you're seeing. And most doctors do a good job and want to help people, but it kind of kept in a guild. So in the book, Young Forever, I do have really extensive questionnaires that allow you to figure out almost 80% of what's going on.
Yep.
And then depending on what you find in those, you can kind of follow up with different kinds of testing. But because of this problem, exactly that you're talking about, I decided to co-found a company with a good friend called Function Health, which allows you, without a doctor's order, to go to any Quest lab in the country, and there's thousands of them, get a blood draw of over 100 biomarkers that normally cost $15,000 for $500.
Wow.
And it comes with a whole interpretive map and framework and dashboard that's filtered through the lens of functional medicine that I wrote that allows people to not have to go see the doctor and still do 80% of. Or
why the hell did I go to your clinic then if I could have just done this, Dr. Hyman? Bearing the lead. No, I'm just kidding. I am just kidding, everybody. I do want to say something that I was able to go to the medical center right here in this tiny town of Manchester, Vermont, and have blood drawn for those tests.
Yeah, right.
And so you don't have to go to your primary care. You don't have to go. All of the minute clinics that are popping up are places where you can go if you're going to do those things to order the blood draws.
Well, the thing is, you have to usually get a doctor's order. So the beautiful thing about Function Health, this company that we created, was that you don't need a doctor's order. So you can go to the website, sign up, and they'll network with over 50 different states, doctors in every one, where you can just go and get kind of
the testing done.
Yeah, get the testing done, get your results, and track it over time. And you can see your hormones, your thyroid, your insulin, your age-related markers, your brain chemistry, so much about what's going on with your body.
You know what's so cool about this, if you can afford to do it, and we'll put the link in the show notes, is it's like getting an X-ray of your insides.
Yeah.
And you've proven to us that you heal from the inside out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And I'm so excited about this approach because it empowers people to be the CEO of their own health. And the reality is that, even if you go to the doctor with all these complaints, they're going to be able to, quote, manage your symptoms. I don't want to manage people's symptoms. I want people to get better. I want people to reverse these problems and not need a doctor. And the truth is, most of the things that work are not things you're going to get at a doctor's office, which is drugs and surgery. So sometimes you need them, and I use them. That's not a bad thing. But most of the problems we have don't respond very well to that. And all these things that we talk about, whether it's depression. I mean, antidepressants just suck. They don't work that well. They have all these side effects. And anxiety medications are highly addictive. I mean, they just cover over the symptoms. What if you could actually figure out why you're having the problem and fix it?
Well, I think you told us why. It's inflammation. It's a gut that's out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
It is the stressors in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It is the toxins in your environment. Mm-hmm. And not understanding that your body has this elegant design that is super intelligent and responsive and can heal itself if you are conscious and intentional about the right input.
Yeah. And that's what's exciting that's happening now in science is we're actually getting there. Like the old paradigm's dying. And in the longevity space that I've been working in, and when I wrote about it Young Forever, where these scientists are now talking about what's underlying all these diseases, these 155,000 diseases, that's not what we need to be thinking about. It's these 10 underlying problems that tend to go wrong as we get older that can explain all disease. And if we treat those, we may not be able to just extend our life by 5 years by getting rid of cancer or heart disease, but by 30 or 40 years. That means living to be 120 and being in good shape. Like, I don't want to live to be 120 in a nursing home in a wheelchair. I want to be able to ride my bike, go for a horseback ride, make love. That's what I want to do when I'm 100 or 120.
Wow. I'm glad that you said that, because oftentimes I hear the word longevity and I had that reaction like, well, I don't want to be rotting away in a nursing home at
exactly.
like 125. That sounds terrible.
It's terrible because most of what we see, Mel, in the world is abnormal aging. And we think that's normal. Oh, it's normal to become frail and decrepit and not be able to do what you want and lose function. And the truth is that most of us, our health span doesn't equal our lifespan. The last 20 years of our life.
What's the difference between health span and lifespan?
Well, health span is how many years you're healthy and you can do what you want. And lifespan is how many years you're alive. So if you're fine until you're 60, then you get dementia and you're nursing home for 20 years. That's not good. So
yes.
that's what you want to do is make your health span equal your lifespan. So on my last day, I want to go for a hike with my beloved. I want to come home, make a delicious dinner. I want to have a bottle of wine, probably a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and
wait a minute, that wasn't on the diet.
Who cares? I'm 120, and then I make love, and I close my eyes and drift off, and maybe take a jump in the pond.
That sounds incredible. My mother-in-law is 85 years old. She jumps out of airplanes. She walks 5 miles a day.
There you go.
She's having the time of her life. When Chris and I went alcohol free for a bit, she's like, I'm not doing that. Like I have my 1 glass of red wine a day. That's what I need. She plays cards. She prioritizes friends.
Yeah, exactly.
She is the definition of vitality at that age.
Yeah.
And she's like the Energizer Bunny. I can't imagine her running out of steam. And that's what I think you're talking about when it comes to vitality. I am in Salt Lake City and I'm about to give a speech. And as I landed here in Salt Lake City, my phone, when it came back online, started to blow up. And it was text messages from our daughter, who is a senior in college. Her name is Kendall. And she is a music student, and she aspires to be a singer-songwriter. And that piece of information is important because it relates to the heartbreak, the confusion, and the entanglement issues she is going through. So what is the issue? The issue is she was really interested in somebody in her program. And they were collaborating as musicians. They were hooking up. They had a really fun relationship. They really cared about each other. And as these things do, it kind of fizzled out. And recently, there has been a new friend that has come into her life that's also a musician that has been extremely helpful in collaboration. And Ken's all excited. And in fact, a week ago, she called me and said, "You're never going to believe this. I met the coolest woman. She wants to do sessions together. She wants to work on music together. I feel so energized." And now Kendall's texting me because she found out a piece of information yesterday, and it has rocked her world. So let me find, of course, I do not have this teed up for you. You can tell this is real time because I'm like, oh my God, I did not actually prepare because this is unfolding. Oh, here she goes. Okay, found it. So at 11:43 a.m., my daughter texts me and says, "Mom, I got to call you later. I found out some tea and I'm #sad." And then I said, let me guess. Brendan has a girlfriend. That's her high school sweetheart who they've both committed to marrying each other if they're both single, still in their 30s. Is that it? Tell me the tea. I just got off a plane. She says, no, ha, 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 ha. Remember how I told you my friend wants to help me book sessions and do management stuff? Yep. And come on, you are a tease when it comes to this kind of stuff. Lay it on me. Sorry, I'm in class. Basically, it's a long story, but she now has a crush on, I'm going to make up a name because I don't want to disclose their names. She has a crush on, what name should we use, everybody? Steve.
She has a crush on Steve. Steve? Do people name their kids Steve anymore? Steve. Okay. Basically, it's a long story, but she has a crush on Steve, and he has a crush on her because they've done a few sessions together because she needed help on a song she wrote for a class. And I just know that this is the universe giving me a test, because the fact that she just waltzed into my life, wants to be a bigger part of my life, and she just so happens to be now developing a crush on this boy I have history with and have made really good music with, this mom is not a coincidence. But I'll admit, I did have a big ugly cry last night because she's fucking gorgeous and they haven't even hooked up yet. And he's already telling our friend that he's crushing on this girl too. Like, bro, we hooked up for 6 months and he never said those words to. So now I just feel like he was only in it with me for the sex. Like, wow. Now, I have to give myself some props. I have been working on not trying to jump in and solve my kids' problems. This is so hard for me to do. My anxiety and my need to fix things and my need to make sure my kids are okay has me typically in this situation jump in and be like, here's what you need to do. And here, da, 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 da. But I have been working on using my own 5-second rule. Count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Put yourself in pause. And then I choose a different response. And my response now is to not correct a situation, but to seek connection. And so I put myself in pause. I'm so proud of myself for this. You've got to try this with the people in your life. And instead of offering a solution, I just offered connection and said, well, that fucking sucks. I hate it when the universe does that. And then she said, like, what am I supposed to make of this, Mom? I put myself in pause. I did not offer a solution. And I said, I don't know. What do you think you're supposed to make of this? Can we just say, good job, Mel Robbins? Like, I feel like, okay, this is a huge leap in my parenting skills. She says, well, it almost feels like a test. And then I say, do you want me to tell you what I'm thinking? And she says, yes. And I said, I agree. I think it's a test about how serious you are about music. And then she says, it's also confusing because they're both so serious about music, which is why I think they're like into each other. And it's almost confronting for me in a way. And then I wrote, every relationship is a test. This one is saying, don't test me. I'm just fine on my own. Hey, wouldn't this be a great Lizzo song this moment? She says, I know, but this is just so unfortunate. I know that this is just the universe, Mom. All I have been manifesting is devotion to my work and music above all else. And clearly this is just a test of that manifesting, because they are two people who want to help me make progress in my music career. And now that they could potentially get involved with one another, it's a test to try and shift my attention and question both of their roles. And if I actually want to collaborate and use them to help me with my music career. I've been trying so hard all day to have an abundant mindset. Like, good for them, honestly. How great it is that someone I want to produce and write with is also really dig someone that I want to support, that wants to support me, believe in me, and help me grow, you know? And then I said, I want you to also consider energy. She said, expand on that. I said, I will later. I think your energy is off now that this has happened. And this is not a good sign. She says, what do you mean? I said, well, it doesn't work for you to collaborate on music with someone you have weird vibes with. Now, I want to stop right there and unpack something for you. If you don't know what to do in life, always go in and pay attention to energy. When the energy shifts around people or relationships or anything that you're doing, that is always a sign about alignment. It's a sign for you to slow down when energy vibes shift and something feels off. As a human being, you are wired to be in alignment. You're wired to feel like things are in a groove. And clearly, when you find out news like our daughter did 24 hours ago, that somebody that you had been hooking up with and still have a crush on and still want to work with now has a crush on someone else, and she has a crush on them, the energy is going to shift. And it's now an opportunity for you to learn something about yourself, for you to seek better alignment, and for you to follow the energy that feels good. That's the opportunity of a moment like this, which is why I brought up energy. Let's go back to the text exchange, okay? Mom, can you expand on that? I said, well, I will later, but your energy is off, and that's not a good sign. She said, what do you mean? I said, it doesn't work for you to collaborate on music, which is something very intimate for you, with someone you have weird vibes with. Have you ever had this situation happen to you, like at work, where you kind of had a crush on somebody at work, and next thing you know, you're finding out that the person you have a crush on with is actually secretly dating somebody else at work, and now you don't feel like you want to work on projects with those two? That's an example of that energy being off. And then she says, you mean the fact that my energy has been thrown by this means that it's not a good call? But Mom, I also think that I can rise above this and be above this and let them do their thing without feeling threatened. Okay, let's stop right there. That is so true. What if you could develop the power and the self-awareness to notice in these kinds of heartbreaking and confusing situations that, boom, the energy's off. Oh my God, I'm disappointed. I'm also confronted. What if you could literally switch gears in that moment? I mean, wouldn't that be a superpower to be able to rise above that kind of thing? And then she writes this. Well, I don't want to be with him anyway. I mean, I just don't. I just don't want him to want her. Mic drop. Isn't that life right there? And of course, I had to say, that's a song. I know you hate it when I say that, but when I read your texts, I feel like I'm reading lyrics. Oh, okay. Right in the middle of this, my husband's calling. Okay, let me just pick it up real quick and let's see what Chris has to say. Oh wait, I don't know what's happening. Is he still calling? Oh, here he is. Hold on. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Mel.
I'm taping a podcast. What's up?
I love you.
I love you too. Can I say something real quick? I'm talking about the situation that Kendall has with the that guy she had been hooking up with. We're calling him Steve, and her finding out that Steve has a crush on someone at school that is her good friend.
Uh-huh.
Has she talked to you about this?
This is a recent thing?
Okay, so I guess you're in the dark.
Yeah, I don't know anything.
Okay.
She's been trying to call me, but I don't know if it's explicitly to tell me the story. I don't know anything about it, though.
She probably is calling you to ask for money.
I think she's all set. I can see her.
All right. Well, I'm going to hang up and keep talking to...
But you're probably right that she's not calling me for relationship advice.
She's blowing up my phone about it right now. So here's what I'm going to do. I love you too. I'm going to hang up with you. I'm going to continue talking to the folks that are listening right now on the podcast. Do you want to say hi to everybody?
Hey, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Robbins. There he is. Yay. Okay, well, you have a great day. I'll call you later because I'm about to lose my train of thought. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so back to the podcast. That was Christopher Robbins. Isn't he cute? Okay, I think that's it. So here's what we're going to do. I am going to try to get Kendall Robbins on the phone. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get her on the phone. I have no idea how this is going to go. One thing I need you to know about this is that this is not staged and that I am going to try to bring you into my life But here's one boundary I need you to know as we start to do this on this show. We will never air something that features my kids or text messages or a friend or my husband without them listening to the episode and giving us the okay. I put that boundary in place because I want us to be able to record in a way that is spontaneous and authentic and live, but and in that environment, allow people to speak freely, but also to have people know that they're safe to speak freely because nothing will air that they're uncomfortable with. So it's important for me to tell you that so that you understand the steps that I'm taking to both share my life and keep this real and raw and authentic and relatable and deeply personal, and also not exploit people or make them feel unsafe. Okay, so let's see if we can get Kendall Robbins on the phone. She does not know that we are calling her. Here we go. For those of you watching on YouTube right now, I just want to tell you something. We taped what you're about to hear and watch yesterday, and the whole thing went down live. But when I opened yesterday, I was all discombobulated. And so I'm in a different outfit than what you're about to see. And frankly, I don't even know how we're going to end this thing, so I might be in a different outfit when you're watching this on YouTube. And that's one of the things why it's important to subscribe to YouTube, because we do release audio versions of the podcast and the unabridged, behind the scenes, anything goes, crazy ass stuff, longer form is always released on the same day on YouTube. So you're going to want to listen to both, okay? Anyway, that's it. So let's cut to us trying to get to Kendall. Here we go.
Hi, this is Dr. Schneeberger, Kendall's grandfather. If you're a boy, hang up. Otherwise, leave a message.
At the tone, please record your message.
She has had that voicemail message that my dad recorded for her since she was in 9th grade. I got to give her props for having the same outgoing message that your grandfather recorded. I mean, for 8 years. Come on now. If you can roll with that through high school and college, you can roll through somebody crushing on your ex-crush. That's all I'm saying. And you can also get the message in all of this mess of your life that what is hurting you is probably not meant for you. That it's time that you align your life with a new direction that energizes you and people that you're in a groove with. It's really that simple. People come and go in your life, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to be stung when they exit. Because when that door slams, sometimes your finger can get caught in it. You know what I'm saying? So let's see if she calls us back. She's in class. She just texted me, Mom, I'm in class. What's your problem? She'll find out what my problem is when she calls back. And hopefully we'll be able to air it. You answer it. Just hit. Kendall? Oh. Kendall?
Hi.
Hi. Okay. So I thank you for calling me back after class. I wanted to talk to you about the texts that we were exchanging today because it reminded. What are you doing?
I'm eating a chocolate bar, Mom. Like, sorry, I don't have a fucking podcast mic on me right now. Okay, I'm ready. Go.
America will wait. No, the globe will, because we have listeners and fans around the world hanging on your every word and the crumbs coming out of that chocolate bar.
They're good crumbs.
Are you like inside? Can you go outside where maybe we can hear you?
I am outside.
Can you move away from those annoying people sitting next to you?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
Talk to me.
Okay.
While I'm moving.
Talk to you while I'm moving. Okay. So I got your text today, and I shared the gist of it with everybody. And after sharing the gist of it with everybody, I thought, wow, it reminded me of a moment when I was going through a really hard time, and there was a bunch of things in my life that were not working the way I'd hoped they would. And you gave me some of the best advice I have ever received. Do you remember what it was?
I do.
What was it?
Well, I told you that the reason that you were experiencing that, whatever you were experiencing, which was not a pleasant experience, was so you could get back in touch with what the people you're trying to inspire are struggling with every day, because you're a very lucky person. You worked very hard for the life that you have, but I think you, on a day-to-day basis, don't really struggle the way that the people you inspire do. And I told you that the reason that you were having all of these issues was because you needed to be reminded of how they feel and how you had once felt.
And if we go a level deeper and more profound on the advice,
Okay.
what force was actually giving me those lessons?
What was?
What force? Because in your advice, there's a presumption about something bigger
universe.
and more profound. So talk about that.
The universe. Well, should I talk more descriptive of my own personal experience?
Well, when you gave me that advice, because it's easy to give advice, right? Because you're not emotionally attached to the situation.
Yeah.
And so when you gave me that advice, that the reason why these things were happening in my life that were hard and challenging and causing me a lot of pain and causing me to question people around me and what was happening, you basically said that, Mom, your biggest mission in life is to help people. That's how you started. And because of your success, you have gotten far away from what it feels like to wake up every day and feel this level of struggle. That there was something in this challenge tied to my purpose, and that a greater spiritual force and energy was behind this if I was willing to look at the challenge that way.
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also like has a lot to do with like growth and like comfort and like wanting to, I don't know, because I think like you and me are both inspired by and want to create things that require us to grow and to challenge ourselves every day. And it's so easy to just stay in like a comfortable place, to stay in all the habits that you have, to never do shit that scares you, or never interact with people or things or relationships that make you look in the mirror, make you feel insecure, or make you scared, or make you angry, or whatever it is. And I think that that like challenge tide that you experienced was like, I don't know, I think for me right now, I'm sort of in this place where I'm going through a teeny little fucking challenge tide that's like basically a fucking tide pool. Like, it's not a tsunami.
Yeah.
Yours was, mine was not, but I think I'm going through this challenge tide and I'm trying so hard because I want to maintain feeling aligned, and because I want to embrace growth and not let this derail me, that I'm like trying so hard to stay in like a mindset where I look at it as like an opportunity instead of like something that's been something like I'm being damned, I'm being wronged. Like, it's more of like, okay, you know what? Thank you. This is some sort of message.
What is the message? So, because let's go back to this part where you get the news that somebody that you are a new friend with is now crushing on somebody you used to crush with. And
And this new friend has come into my life and asked if they can pour into me basically professionally, which is like an absolute godsend. And then I find out like a few days later that it's like there's some entanglement between someone that I used to feel something for, and now they might feel something for them, but I still want to utilize this new friend. I'm just playing chess. Maybe I'm playing checkers. I don't know. I don't really know how to play
What's
either
the
one.
difference? I don't either. Well, I think I know how to play checkers, but
I'm probably playing checkers, let's be honest.
well, I think that you're at a crossroads.
But what my point is that it would be so easy for me to just drop a fucking bomb on this really cool person and this really cool opportunity I have with not only the ex, but the new person who's going to help me, and the ex who, by the way, I also deeply, deeply respect and care about and know in my heart that I'm not supposed to be with and I'm not supposed to have a relationship to. But I think now that he and her are now entangled, it's making me go, wait, I kind of want him to be entangled with me again, which is not what I want. It's just this is my like fear of rejection coming up and my ego coming up. But back to my point is like, it would be so easy for me to just fucking derail this whole thing because I'm insecure and I'm suddenly feeling like I'm in a place of resistance. And
Stop
it would
right
be
there.
harder
Stop
for
right
me.
there. Can I just ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to me what exactly you would do to derail this situation? What would the old, sneaky, nasty you do?
Well, I would probably just find ways to, like, I would probably start to avoid her. I would probably like pull the plug, not pull the plug, but like sort of just pump the brakes on this like relationship that I'm cultivating, and this relationship that I'm like actively pouring more time into. I would probably pump the brakes on that.
Would you then pull the string again on the person you used to be interested in?
Would I what on him?
Would you stoke the flame on the person you used to be interested in again?
That would be like level 0, Kendall, because I'm not really somebody that does that after a breakup. But maybe I might. I'm more of like a cold shoulder person. Like, you don't exist, I don't exist, which is not really a great tactic.
Is that like a level 2?
No, I mean, I think what I would do is I would pump the brakes on her, and every time I was around him, I'd shut down. I would not collaborate with him. I would not collaborate with her, and I would just feel myself in a place of resistance, in a place of shut down, in a place of like I would just go to a really horrible, like detrimental, negative self-talk place that probably wouldn't be lifted for a while.
You're basically describing
and like listen,
like in my teens and 20s and sometimes my 30s, but go ahead, and sometimes my 40s. But
well, what I was gonna say is like when I found out about this.
How did you find out?
Yeah. That's not important. I found out, and when I found out about this, which happened quite literally yesterday, all of last night and like slivers of today, I felt myself in that place, like not really acting out from that place, but like in that mindset of like looking in the mirror and being like, wow, I'm fucking ugly, or being like, ooh, she's so much better than me. No wonder he wants her. Like, there's no way I can collaborate her because of this. There's no way that he's ever going to want to collaborate with me. Like, things are going to be awkward, just like over and over and over and over and over. And then like I had to remind myself, like, we're not doing that. We're not going to like live there. We're not going to be in that mindset, like yada, yada, yada. But like, it's pretty much day one. And I'm like already having to sort of like train myself to like not go there.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
because I think this is so incredibly relatable. And
Mhm.
what I visualize when I think about you standing on a street corner and having the thought cross your mind, or seeing them talking, or having a text show up from one of them because y'all are kind of collaborating in a professional sense,
Yeah.
that you now literally find yourself at an emotional and mental crossroad. The text or seeing them or a song coming on triggers you to be at the crossroad, and the Kendall 0 goes down the left-hand road and has negative thoughts that basically beat the hell out of you and tell you a story. See, more evidence, see this. And the Kendall, what number are we going to assign this?
Fucking 100.
Okay, Kendall fucking 100, who then looks at the other fork, which is a fork that's aligned with what you actually want, with who you're becoming, with energy that is in a groove that matches with you. And that's a whole new way of thinking and being for you.
Yeah.
What's this been like? And since you're actively in this, how would you describe what people need to do who are in this situation? They're literally just found out that their ex is going on a date with their friend. They just found out that the dream job that they got, or the dream school that they wanted to be in, went to somebody else. And there's this moment where the way you thought things were going to go just don't happen. And you feel the sting that you're talking about. And it just causes you to start telling yourself a very old story. It's never going to work out for you. This always happens to me. Nobody's going to love me. When is it going to be my turn? All that crap. How does somebody in that moment actually visualize a fork in the road, start to catch that negativity, and redirect themselves in a new direction?
Okay. Well, one second. I'm just getting on my bike.
Okay. Do we have to ride while we're giving the world advice
Mom,
here?
I think that you forget that I'm a student and I'm living my life. So give me a second. This is good. You can cut this out. Like, relax. Jesus. What I was going to, I'm sort of just going to start talking, and I might contradict myself, and I might go back on what I'm saying, but I guess that's part of this whole thing. But, yeah, I'm driving up to Thornton and potential encounter about to happen.
That would be amazing. I'm going to manifest that right now. Dear God, come on, bring him in. I would like to see the two of them walk around the corner as you're talking to us.
No, they're not.
If they did, where would you feel it?
I would be like, damn it, that blows. But then I would tell myself, like, I think what I tell myself is, I'm like, well, I think that it helps for me. It helps to know that, like, in my certain situation, like, I've already like done it, and I've already tried it, and it didn't work. And I know in my heart, like, I think what you need to do in these kinds of situations is just, like, remember what you know to be true, like, in your heart. Like, if it's your dream school and you didn't get in then and your best friend did, like, just believe in the fact that it's still your dream school and it's going to happen. It just might not be right now. And I think for me, what I'm telling myself is, like, I don't want that relationship. I don't want to be in that relationship. And I know that in my heart. And, like, instead of torturing myself and going back to, like, my old ways of thinking and trying to tell myself that I do want it just so I can have some sort of stupid validation, I'm going to tell myself that, like, he's still here. He's still talking to one of my good friends now, maybe for a reason. And instead of seeing this as, like, a detriment to my life. Like, why don't I just flip the fucking script and like benefit from it? Like, how cool would it be if two people who I know care about me, who respect me deeply, and who both want to pour into me creatively and professionally, how fucking amazing would it be if they both fucking love each other and are vibing and are awesome? And how great is it, and how good and great does it feel to visualize like them hitting it off and them crushing on each other and them being awesome and great and just like an explosion of love and light. And I just get to experience that, and I get to be around that, and I get to benefit from that. And like, I think
I don't think you were that into him
if
if you're this transformed 24 hours later. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, this sounds
No,
like a
I
highly
just- I
evolved
don't
human
think-
being.
No, it is. And I also don't, I think that like a non-aligned human would probably listen to me talk and be like, well, that's fucking selfish. Like,
Because I'll tell you what you just said there was exactly the point of this, which is
I was going to say, it's all about healthy selfishness in this situation. Like, I know in my heart that like what I want is not that. And so instead, let me just surrender to the reality of what it is, and then flip the script and be like, how can I have fun? How can I make this fun for me? How can I use this to benefit me? Like, how can I like look at this in a way that's like not going to make me feel like shit?
I think that's amazing. And since you're on a roll, can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
The fact that you've processed this in less than 24 hours and you're already love and light and alignment, to me says you weren't that into him anyway, and these are old wounds that you're working on around rejection.
Or it says that I was, and I'm mature as shit, and I'm on my spiritual awakening journey, and I'm aligned.
That you can.
How about that?
I think that's freaking hot. That's
No, like, fuck though, you weren't that into him. Like, no, I really was. But I'm more into myself, and I'm on my fucking journey, and what of it?
Oh my God. Okay, so I just got something from this, and now my armpits are sweating because it's such a good idea. You ready?
Sure.
You were able to hyper process this because you are very clear about who you are and what it feels like when you're in the groove with energy and people and where you put your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very clear when you are in alignment with your energy, with your focus, with who you surround yourself with, when something enters the space that's off. You feel friction. Yes. You don't feel like yourself. You feel yourself reaching for old toxic behaviors.
Yeah.
And
yes.
And that's why you were able to process this so quickly and hold space for the fact, I still like the guy. And I still want to work with her and him.
And him.
I got to figure this out, because what the universe is actually teaching you, Ken, is it's teaching you how to stay laser focused on your higher objective instead of getting sucked into the toxic bullshit that Kendall Zero used to get sucked into.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that.
Yeah, that feels very like clear and like makes sense to me. Because it's like, I don't want to lose them. I don't want to like what I was saying about the whole derailing thing is like, it would be so easy for me to just like derail. Okay, not working with you. I'm going to go cry about it. I'm going to listen to fucking sad music and blah, 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 and miss this crazy good opportunity. Or I could win from this. Like, it's just the mindset of being like, I can win from any situation. Okay, well, that's a little provincial, but
actually, Ken,
I think it's a good mindset to have. Like, any situation that you are in, whether or not you put yourself there, if you didn't, if it was placed upon you, like, you can still win. And like, it's just about like figuring out that higher objective and figuring out how you can feel aligned in that space that initially felt pretty negative.
One final thought. If we were to roll the clock back 2.5 years when you went through something way more painful that took a lot longer to process.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Do you have any insight to offer for somebody who's in that space, who thinks what you're saying right now sounds absolutely fantastical and completely not realistic?
Well, that's give me a second on that one. Not like a day, like give me actually 5 seconds.
Can I offer something?
Sure.
What if you take your mindset of, I could win in this, that there are certain upsets along the way that take longer to process?
Okay, I have it.
Go.
I was just going to say that, like, everybody always says, like, you can't love anyone until you love yourself. But I feel like that, like, the word choice in that isn't correct, because I feel like if I had known at that point 2 years ago when I was going through a much more painful and drawn out and confusing, entangled breakup, like, I had no, like, I didn't really believe that, like, I didn't believe in myself. Like, at that point in time, I wasn't like, I was put on this earth to do something bigger. Like, I didn't, like, actually believe with my whole heart that, like, I was put on this earth to live an incredible life and that I had the power to do so. And, like, I think that's where a lot of people's issues are, is that, like, they don't think that they're worth it. They don't think that they can actually achieve their dreams. They don't have dreams. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, at that point in time, I had ideas of what I thought my dreams were, but they weren't real. And I didn't actually believe, like, I'm going to be doing something bigger than this. Like, this is just like a piece to the puzzle. It's not the puzzle itself. And I feel like right now I can actually taste, like, the bigger things that are going to be happening for me. And, like, I can feel that, like, and because I can taste it, I know that this small challenge tide is just a test, you know, and it's not the whole thing. And it's, I can easily compartmentalize it because I can taste the bigger picture, but, like, I had to do a lot of fucking taste testings before that. You know what I mean? Like, go to the winery, babe.
I love that. And I would add one more thing. You're
Okay.
able to process this entanglement in hyper freaking Star Wars, like, whatever speed. Like, I just see hyper speed
Okay.
because of everything that you allowed yourself to feel and learn and process and mourn and discover about yourself in that painful year of breaking up. Just like I am able to feel a level of contentment and happiness that I've never experienced in my life now that I'm 53 because of the protracted, painful, awful, horrible 2 years of heartbreak that you had a front row seat to.
Yeah.
And I think the breakthrough that you receive in life is in direct reverse proportion to how painful the experience was. And when you get any,
but I don't think that is widespread, and that isn't, like, a way to seek.
I don't recommend you smash into a wall to learn a lesson. I'm saying life does that to you. And if you are able to process the hard stuff as a lesson, one of the benefits is the second the future you gets within an inch of anything that feels familiar to that old pain, you have an opportunity to go, I'm at that crossroad. I see the old me. I could spend a year doing this bullshit where I suck my thumb in the corner and I play small and I pretend my life is over and I hate every other woman because they're prettier. Or I know that road. Or you actually put yourself in park and say, wait a minute. I learned something from that. And what I learned is I'm not fucking doing that again to myself. I'm going to.
And I also think that, like, for this example, especially with this, like, girl and this guy, like, I think, like, even yesterday and today, I felt a little bit of, like, oh, well, maybe, like, maybe that road that they're on is like the wrong one. Like maybe I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should, like, I'm like visualizing a lot of like going left and going right. And like for some reason, the right is always like the right road to go down. I mean, I don't think that was a coincidence in my brain, but what I'm saying is like yesterday I was like, you know what, maybe like collaborating with both of these people is not is going to the left. It's not going to the right. And like, I shouldn't be collaborating with them. Like, this is not a good idea. But then I was like, no, because if I wasn't collaborating with them, then I would actually be going to the left, because I would be like in resistance and I would be in pain and I would be comparing myself to every other woman on the face of the fucking earth. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
Consider that you don't do that and then see which road you're on.
Amazing. Hold that thought. I just want to ask Andrea and Maddie and Jesse, do you have any question you want me to ask Kendall? No? Maddie, you got one? Maddie was crying.
I was crying because what you said. No, well, what you said is exactly what I've been going through, like literally right now. And what I went through, like, I think almost 3.5 years ago, when I went through like a really prolonged, drawn out breakup where I felt like I wasn't good enough to be in the relationship and I wasn't enough to be enough for, you know, what he wanted, when that wasn't the case. And it's taken me a really long time to get to the other side of it. And I think that what you said is so, and I'm still probably like not close to, I'm getting there, but I'm not quite there. You know what I mean? Like it just takes time. And I wonder, maybe like, I like the question of like, what would you tell your past self, but like not even what could you take away? It's just like, if you could place yourself in a space in this moment where you feel the exact same way that you felt at that time, like you know that you would make a different decision, right?
Yeah. I think honestly, like, if I was in that like really hard, like cyclical bad pattern, what I would do is just like every day do like a little something that scared me, or do like every time that I felt like just that like shit mindset I was going back to, like every time I felt myself going back to it, like just toy with the idea or like welcome the idea of doing the other thing. You know what I mean? Because that's just like sort of building the muscle, like strengthening the muscle of like going to the right instead of the left. Like, because for me in that really long breakup, it was like I was in the same place, like I'm not good enough for him, like I'm never going to be good enough for him. And now I've gotten to a point where I'm like, it is a fucking gift that I was even with him, and it is a gift that it didn't work out. And like, it had nothing to do with me not being good enough to him. It was just like, he was a part of my journey and like he served his purpose. And I knew all along it wasn't supposed to be like a lifetime, but I think I resisted going to the right for so long, like to the point where literally like there was a fucking roadblock, like the road fell apart, the left road fell apart. And it was like, I don't have a choice. You know what I mean? And so I think what my piece of advice would be is to like practice just like turning right a little bit here and there every day. Just go to the right. Oh, I normally would do this, but let me just try doing that. Or I normally would think this, but let me just try thinking that. And I honestly think that like that will help you strengthen the muscle, because the amount of resistance I was in for so long, going to the left, going to the left, going to the left, when the universe was like, go to the fucking right, was just like a waste of time. And now I know that like if I just practiced trying to do the other thing, think the other way, like it would have been so much easier for me to see like the strung along pattern that had been being created for me all along.
Well, I think it's interesting, like the fact that you say go to the left and go to the right, because I think that you can take that in so many different directions. Like something that my dad has always told me is like, always like choose yourself first. And I've never done this, right? Like I always put others in front of myself, and like I always put others' feelings in others' situations and how other people, you know, react to what I do before what I think about my actions. And so I think it's interesting because turning left to me, when you said it, I was like, that feels like choosing everybody else, and turning right feels like choosing me.
Yes, 100%. It's like you always know what like you should be doing for you, but it's like scarier to do that, or you don't want to do that because it might fuck up what's going on with everyone else. But the second you start putting you first, it's just like a trickle down effect. Like you start attracting more shit to just start happening for you. And it's incredible.
It's so interesting that you say that because I recently started doing those kinds of things and I literally see a shift in my behavior and how other people like react to my behavior. Like the confidence that I have based on choices that I've made in the last 6 months alone has been completely different than the confidence I had even a year ago, that like I can make decisions now today that I know I couldn't have made a year ago. And it's because of choices of like turning right and choosing me instead of doing things for other people and doing things for the benefit of other people instead of doing them for the benefit of me.
Yeah.
Good on you, man. Good
Okay,
on
Mom, I'm literally, class starts in 1 minute, so I do have to leave. But I love you very much. And let's talk after class.
I love you. I'm proud of you, actually. I'm proud of the person you're becoming and your ability to share everything that you're learning through all of it with all of us.
I'm proud of me too. Like, I've come a long fucking way. Oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
it's like laughable, but I'm like just happy, and I'm like grateful that I can like be this mindful about myself, and like I'm finally like manifesting and attracting and like doing things that I've always like wished I could, you know?
I love it. Well, we'll keep sharing and unpacking it so everybody else can learn along the way too. Have a great class.
Yeah, we will. All right, I love you.
Love you too.
So, when you look at the research around happiness, researchers have put happiness into two big categories. One is hedonic happiness, and hedonic happiness is, am I having fun right now? It's the moment to moment fluctuating experiences that you have. And let's go back to the metaphor. It's like the waves in the ocean. They come and they go. You can jump in, you can play, you can have fun, and then it's over. And then there is the deeper happiness, the eudaimonic happiness, which is the sense of your life having meaning, of you feeling fulfilled and thriving in that life of yours. And it's important for you to understand that happiness has these two buckets, because I think what happens for a lot of us, and this kind of gets to Andrea's question, is that maybe you have one type of happiness. Maybe you're having a lot of fun on the surface, but life doesn't feel very meaningful. Or maybe you're deep in it, but you're not having any fun. And so I really want to unpack the difference between these two things and why you need both before we jump into the 3 different ways that you can increase happiness in your life. And so let's go to another question from a listener named Rachel.
Hey Mel, I absolutely love your podcast and all of your work. I have a very loaded question, and I know a one-size-fits-all answer might not exist, but I wanted to ask anyway. How can I truly be happy? How do I cultivate happiness? I read so many self-help books, read a lot about the effects of childhood trauma. I journal. I try to be conscious of my habitual thoughts and patterns and work to reframe them. I exercise. I'm always listening to inspiring and transformational content like you. I feel like I do all the things, but I still struggle just to be happy and to feel happy. And I feel very stuck in the same emotions, and I really want to change. I really want to enjoy my life. Do you have any advice?
Rachel, I so relate to you. And I want to just pass the mic to you listening right now. When Rachel said, I just want to enjoy my life, didn't you get the chills? Didn't you nod along and say, yeah, I just want to enjoy my life too? And this is really on my mind because I think that's the point of life, right? To really try to enjoy it. And one of the things that I notice can happen when you are in a period in your life where you're trying to heal, you're investing in yourself, in your personal growth. You mentioned that you're working on trauma. You're trying to dig out of some of the holes maybe that you feel like you fell into. You're trying to change your mindset. That's serious work. That was me for years too. Here's the problem with having a big healing journey. You're not having any fun. I think about periods of my life when I was going through a lot of change, and I was working on myself, and I was doing everything that you're doing. Every book I picked up was self-help. Everything that I listened to was self-improvement. I couldn't even remember the last time I read a fiction novel, or I went to a concert, or I went to a party. Everything got so serious because my focus became so serious. And my focus was about improving my life, improving my life, improving my life. And doing the work to change your life, it's important. Doing the work to identify toxic patterns that you have, or bad thinking patterns that make you feel like shit, that's super important. But you must also double down on the fun while you're doing the deeper work. And so the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to set an intention that your number one goal this year is to have more fun, to invest in that first category, hedonic happiness, that researchers say is so important. Because yes, it's meaningful. Yes, it's fulfilling to do the hard work to change your life for the better. But changing your life for the better also means that you need more moments of fun in your life. And I worry a lot about this based on what we've all experienced in the past 3 years. We've all become hermits. It's hard enough to get yourself out of your house. But the other thing that's happened is if you're not going into work, if you're still working from home, you're also missing out on all of the spontaneous stuff that happens when you bump into people when you're out and about. In fact, I can tell you a story. Just the other night, it was Sunday night. And, as a bit of background, my husband and I had gotten some really awful news last week that a very, very close friend of ours suddenly died. Age 47, heart attack, gone. And I had been holed up in my house ever since hearing the news. I was super sad, feeling down, and I hadn't left the house in days. And so on Sunday, Chris says to me, Mel, I made a 4:30 reservation at the paddle tennis courts, which is a kind of form of almost like ping pong that you can play, sort of like pickleball, in the middle of the winter on these tennis courts outside with some friends. It was the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to just curl up on the couch and suck my thumb and feel sad. And we got into the car, and the entire ride over, I was sitting there thinking, should I tell Chris I'm pissed that he made this date with this couple to go play paddle? Should I tell him this is the last thing that I want to do? I kept saying to myself, should I say this? Should I not say it? And then I would say, no, don't shit on his parade. Just suck it up. It's going to be okay. We pull up. The sun's starting to go down. It's freezing. I've got a hat on and mittens on, and I'm grumpy, and I don't really want to be there. And then I see our friends, and I felt a little lighter. Do you know it took about 5 seconds of hitting that ball around for me to feel totally different? The truth is, I needed the fun. I needed the laughter. I needed to not be thinking about something so heavy. I needed to see people that I really like. I needed to do something that wasn't that serious, like working on myself or feeling sad or grieving. I needed fun. And getting out on that paddle court, it was fun. And there's a part of me that is sitting here going, Mel, are we really having a conversation right now on this podcast about the obvious? That we need to schedule time to have fun, that we need to force ourselves out of our houses, that we need to break this habit of being isolated and lonely? Yeah, we do have to have this conversation, because I don't think you and I have truly grasped the extent to which our day-to-day lives and our happiness has been impacted by these past 3 years. I mean, even those of us who really enjoyed that period of lockdown where we were trapped inside with our families, this new normal, this part of it, where we're sort of back to normal, but we're not, but we're coping, but we're like this situation, the loneliness and isolation, it feels like it's become everybody's new lifestyle. It's our new default. But this isn't just obvious, it's well researched. Researchers have proven that the difference between people who are happy and those of us who aren't is that happy people prioritize doing things that make them happy. I know, it's so dumb, but I need the reminder too. So now let's go back to my analogy about the ocean and the beach and waves and happiness. And I want you to just imagine that you're sitting on the beach and those waves are rolling in and they're rolling out, and there's a boogie board sitting next to you. At some point, you have to get off the towel and you got to run into that ocean and you got to go play. And the fact is, it just takes one person to get everybody else to go. There's always that one person in a group of people at a beach who stands up first and grabs the boogie board and says, let's go body surfing. Come on, guys, let's go into the waves. And thankfully, this past Sunday night, for me, it was Chris. He was that one person. And look, being intentional about enjoying your life, about having fun, particularly during those periods of time where you're grieving, where you are going through something difficult, where life feels heavy, prioritizing fun is critical. But that's just one of the three things that you and I are going to discuss when it comes to getting intentional and amplifying up the 40% of happiness that is within your control right now. And if you're sitting there scratching your head going, oh my God, this is so me, but Mel, like, I think I forgot how to have fun. Don't worry about it. I've got an entire episode that we did a while back called How to Have More Fun, and I will link to that along with all the studies that we're talking about in the show notes. And so now that you and I have been playing in the waves and you understand that dragging yourself out of the house to the beach, off the towel, into the ocean, and forcing yourself to do things that are fun, that is part of happiness that we cannot escape. You and I are now going to go deeper into the ocean. And we're going to talk about the two other elements that you can tap into to create more happiness in your life right now. And we're going to do that using more questions from fellow listeners of the podcast when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Mel Robbins, and you and I are talking about what research says about creating more happiness in your life. We've already talked about the fact that researchers have identified two types of happiness: hedonic happiness and eudaimonic happiness, both of which are critical to your overall feelings of happiness. And we've talked about why getting intentional about having more fun is critical to you feeling happier now. Now we're going to jump into the deeper part of happiness, and that is the eudaimonic happiness, whether or not your life has meaning. Because when you go through periods of life where life is monotonous, it just feels kind of blah, you're on autopilot, you're not going to feel that happy. Just ask Jenna.
Hey Mel, my name is Jenna, and my question for you is, how do you truly find happiness in everyday ordinary life? I'm a mom of 2 boys, and I struggle most days with being as joyful as I was when they were very little.
As a mother of 3 kids who are now young adults, I can relate to what you were saying about how you were joyful when they were little. And I love that you use the word joyful, because I want to go back to that metaphor that I introduced at the very beginning of an ocean, and thinking about an ocean when you think about happiness. And so to me, when you go to the beach and it's a very, very calm day, there are no waves, there might not even be a cloud in the sky. Boy, it sure is beautiful. Happiness is like a still ocean on those days. It's your ability to stand in that ocean and feel this state of presence and connectedness and gratitude to simply being in the ocean. And I want to come back to something that you also said that I absolutely loved. You used the word ordinary. And the reason why I think it's important for us to focus in on the word ordinary is we often make the mistake of thinking that happiness is this big thing, this big burst, the big wave. And when it comes to the eudaimonic happiness, the deeper meaning in your life that creates the sense of happiness and fulfillment for you, I want to flip this perspective, because true happiness comes from finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. That's right. True happiness is actually pretty ordinary. And researchers have identified the number one factor in you living a happy life. And it is the most ordinary thing on the planet, which is why most of us miss it. And that's the quality and depth of your relationships. So let's unpack this. The Harvard study of adult development is the longest in-depth longitudinal study of human life that's ever been done. I mean, this has been going on for 84 years and counting. And for those of you super geeks like me out there, this used to be called the Harvard Men Study. So when you hear people talking about the Harvard study of adult development, that's the new name for this. And it now includes 3 generations of people that they've been studying. The original 724 participants now include 1,300 descendants. How cool is that? And here's the thing about this study. This study followed people through their life, asking them all kinds of questions as people aged. And one of the reasons why this study is so profound is because it tracked people as they lived. Most studies have people looking backwards, which means, when you look backwards, you often change the details. That's why the Harvard study of adult development is so exciting and so accurate, and the most accurate and important study of happiness that's ever been done. Not only because they have so much data and brain imaging scans, but they've also been studying people in real time, tracking them forward as they're living their lives. And Dr. Robert Waldinger is the 4th director of the study, and he and past study leaders have published these amazing findings that you and I can apply to our lives. These results from the Harvard Men's Study, they've been replicated in 5 other huge global studies. And I'm telling you all this because there's one singular conclusion from all of this data, all of this research, all of these fancy institutions. And it's this: good relationships keep you happier and healthier. Good relationships make you happier and healthier. The single best decision you can make to improve your health and happiness is to cultivate what researchers call warm relationships. I know what you're thinking. Mel, what the hell are warm relationships? Well, from a clinical standpoint, warm relationships are relationships that don't cause conflict, and you feel positive emotions around the people that you have a warm relationship with. Said in a normal person's way, it's basically people that make you feel warm and fuzzy. That's what warm relationships are. And I want you to stop and think right now. Let's apply the science. If you think about people in your life, I just want you to put 2 columns in your mind. Who would you put under the column labeled warm? They give you the warm and fuzzies. You get a text from them. You're like, oh, yeah, okay. You're excited to see them. You feel energized when you make plans. Now there's the cold column. These are people that put you on edge. These are people that drain your energy. These are the people that when they call or text you, you're like bracing for something. I can boil 84 years of research down to one takeaway. You want to be happier? Put all your energy into warm relationships, building them, strengthening them, spending time with those people in the warm column. You do that, you will be a happier you right now. And the second way that you can do that, by the way, prioritizing the warm, is spend less time with people in the cold column. You either need to stop hanging out with them because they're sucking your energy dry, or you got to put some effort into warming them up by forgiving them or reframing how you see them or working on your boundaries so that you're not triggered by them and their negativity doesn't impact your happiness. So keep that visual of a warm and a cold column. And as you meet people in your life, you can immediately feel what they're like. Are they warm? Are they bringing out the fuzzies? Or are you feeling on edge? Because when it comes to happiness, your happiness right now, not the I'll be when happy, the happiness that truly matters, standing in that deep end of the ocean, the quality of your relationships is truly the most important thing that matters. And I can explain why at an even deeper level. The reason why this matters so much, it is the number one indicator of a happy life. Good, warm relationships. Floating in that ocean with your warm buddies, keeping you buoyant. The reason why is evolution. See, positive or warm interactions with people, you know what that does, that warm, fuzzy feeling? Those kind of people in your warm column, they make you feel safe. When you're around those people, you're not on edge, so your body feels safe. And the opposite is true when you're around people that you would put in the cold column, because when you're around negativity, when people trigger you, when they put you on edge, when you feel like you can't be yourself, you're now in a stress response of fight, flight, or freeze. And this response to other people, it's wired in you. Early Homo sapiens survived because their bodies and their brains, they not only encouraged connection, but they also signaled when somebody might be unsafe. You and I survived because we're social beings. So this is hardwired into us. And here's where it gets interesting. When you feel loneliness, your brain perceives that as life-threatening. And loneliness is not just about physical separation from other people. You can feel very lonely in a crowded room. You can feel lonely in a bad marriage. You can feel lonely in a toxic friendship. And if you're nodding your head right now, thinking, wow, maybe it's not unhappiness. Maybe the core issue for me is I'm lonely. Well, 75% of adults feel moderate to high levels of loneliness. And loneliness is about the quality of your relationships. And I want to tie this back to evolution. Loneliness feels threatening because you're meant to survive in a tribe of people. You're meant to be connected with people that make you feel safe and warm. It's not only part of happiness, this goes down to your mind and body needing protection. And they've even proven that when life is really hard, when it can come at you in full-on attack mode, when you're in survival mode, warm, connected relationships protect you from the stress of life. So how do you do this? How do you tap into relationships? It sounds simple, but again, make the column warm and cold. And then call your friends, text them, arrange time to meet them. So when you feel a pang of loneliness, I want you to understand it's an alarm, just like anxiety. It's a signal that you're missing connection. Please do not ignore it. You may be surprised to hear that I felt this way for a very long time. I kept saying out loud, I'm not happy. I don't feel fulfilled. But when I dug deep into what was really going on for me, the core issue was loneliness. I was having fun. I was really busy. I was doing meaningful work. But deep down inside, I was really lonely. And it may also surprise you to hear that it was during one of the most successful stretches in my career. I was on the road all the time. I was booked nonstop to give speeches. I was working on all kinds of projects with Audible. The business was booming. I was making lots of money. And I have never been unhappier because I was lonely. I was traveling so much, chasing success, chasing achievement, going for the next thing, staying busy, that I never saw my friends. I barely saw Chris. I missed out on a ton of time with our daughters while they were in high school. It was just go, go, go. Now, I had a lot of fun on the business trips. I would laugh a lot. I was always traveling with colleagues, so I wasn't alone. And I was having fun in the waves of life. But when you talk about floating in the deep end of the ocean, I was profoundly lonely. And that meant I was profoundly unhappy. And it can be powerful when you admit this to yourself, because when you realize what you're dealing with is loneliness, that helps you identify the issue you need to improve, which is you need to start reaching out to people. We underestimate the impact that simply getting an unexpected text from an old friend can have on you. Think about how amazing it is when you have a birthday and everybody on social media that gets, the kind of notification that it's your birthday, they come out of nowhere and they wish you happy birthday. It's like, that's unbelievable. It feels so good. You haven't talked to that person since high school, but it feels good to have somebody just give you a quick comment on your birthday. And so if you're sitting around saying, I'm really lonely, but you're not reaching out, you're not calling people, you're not the one making plans or inviting people over for dinner, guess what? You're going to stay lonely. Because when I really looked in the mirror and said, I'm lonely, I need to do something about this. I never get invited anywhere. I don't see anybody. Well, I wasn't inviting anybody over. I wasn't making any plans. It starts with you. And look, it could be anybody. It could be friends, family, coworkers. All you need to do is identify old relationships or cold relationships or warm relationships where you haven't seen somebody in a long time and reach out. And by the way, it could be old relationships. It could be people you haven't seen in a long time. Just anybody at all that makes you feel warm. Start putting energy into talking, texting, commenting, and making plans to see them. And be careful of the cold people, because research shows that spending time with the people in the cold column, it can actually make you feel more lonely. And it even worsens your health to be around people like that. And so you've got your friend Mel Robbins' permission to stop putting energy into draining relationships, because that's only going to make you feel more lonely, and spend more time with warm relationships. And that brings me back to Jenna's question, because she mentioned, did you notice that she felt happier when her kids were little? I suspect that when your kids were little, you were probably part of mom groups. You saw young moms all the time at drop-off, at pickup, at play group, and you felt like you were part of something. You had more warm relationships in your life. That's a sign that you're just missing connection. And I know I said it already, but I can't highlight enough how profound of a difference it can make to simply admit to yourself that you're lonely. That was the turning point for me when I realized a couple years ago, holy cow, I'm unhappy because I'm profoundly lonely. I don't see Chris enough, so I'm lonely in my marriage. I am lonely in my family because I'm not around. I'm working all the time. I never see my friends. And so once I said it was loneliness, that was the cause of my unhappiness, I could do something about it. And you want to know the first decision I made? I made a decision that I was going to change my work life, that I was going to get off the road, that Oakley being in high school was like a melting ice cube. And once the time was gone, I was not going to get it back. And so I reorganized my entire career, my entire business. Instead of sitting on a plane, I'm now sitting above my garage talking to you in a microphone so that I can be home. And it took a lot of work, but I'll tell you what, realizing that traveling that much for work was making it hard to cultivate those warm relationships, that was a huge wake-up call. Because on the surface, it looked like I was having a great time. I was in the waves, but I sure as hell wasn't when it came to the deeper stuff. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Mel, at least you have friends to go back to. What if I don't have any friends or many friends? Well, I would say this. Here's where you can start. Part of warm relationships and happiness is also cultivated by social interactions, the tiny ones you have every single day. Just talk to strangers. This is a great thing to do, by the way. And there's a study that was done by the University of Chicago that you have no clue how happy a random social interaction with a stranger can make you. You kind of inflate in your mind that it's going to be messy to talk to other people, but you underestimate the actual benefits of talking to other people. People who talk to strangers on a train or on a plane or at a bus stop or just at a coffee shop, they're much happier after they talk to the stranger, even if they don't think beforehand that they will be. You know who's great at this? My mother. I was just visiting my mom down in Florida. And when I was little, I used to think it was so annoying, but I now admire this about her. Absolutely everywhere we go, my mom talks to everybody. She talks to everybody about everything. She's constantly commenting on, oh, I like that sweatshirt, or hey, how you doing, or nice day. And people stop and they talk. And next thing you know, they've made a connection, or they're talking about a restaurant recommendation or it's just amazing. And the energy is immediately boosted. And if you're not good at this, here's a great tip. Always compliment somebody's nails. If somebody is waiting on you or standing in front of you in line, or you're sitting next to them, just compliment their nails. If you see somebody reading, ask them what they're reading and if they like it. That's a simple way to compliment somebody, to open up the dialogue, and it always boosts the energy. And one of the things that I'm really concerned about, and I've talked a lot about this on the podcast, and I know the researchers at Harvard are concerned about this too, and that's remote work. Everybody being at home. When we're at home, we miss out on these tiny social interactions with coworkers, with the barista, with the lady at the checkout counter, with the guy that you always see at the grocery store, with the customers that you're used to seeing come into the store. These tiny social interactions go a long way to making you feel warm. So bottom line, relationships, relationships, relationships. Talk to that stranger in line. Push yourself to reach out to people. Text somebody every single day. And don't forget your family. You kind of put family on the back burner, don't you? Because you think they're always going to be there. Make an effort. There's a lot of people in your family, maybe even cousins you haven't seen in a while, that you have a warm relationship with. I'm prioritizing happiness, which means I'm prioritizing the relationships in my life. But you got to push yourself, okay? Let's make ourselves a promise that we're both going to do this, because you got the research and you now know why it matters. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe, because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you, so make sure you subscribe. Mwah.